Hi boys and girls, this is Miss Christie, and tonight's homework is 7-8, Sorting Fractions. So one of the pages of the homework is this fraction number lines, and it has number lines of the whole here. This represents one whole, so 0, 1, 2. And then so these are just wholes again with the whole number. You put 1 as your denominator, 1, 1, 1, 2 ones. And then these are halves. So 0 halves, 1 half, 2 halves. This is one whole. Then these halves here are greater than one whole. So 3 halves and 4 halves. These are thirds. So 0 thirds, 1 third, 2 third. Those are less than a whole. 3 thirds is equal to a whole. And then 4 thirds and 5 thirds and 6 thirds are greater than a whole. So what pattern are you noticing? What is true for the fractions that are greater than a whole? Do you notice anything about the numerators and the denominators? So you might want to take a screenshot of this if you didn't take this home today, and use it to help you with this. Okay, so today we looked for patterns to help order fractions with the same numerator. And we recognize that as the fraction's denominator gets larger, as the denominator gets larger, the fraction gets smaller. And then we wrote the rule for ordering fractions with the same numerator. For problem 1, we're going to sort this set of fractions into two groups: fractions that are greater than 1 and fractions that are less than 1. And then down here, we're going to look for patterns to help sort any set of fractions into these two groups. Okay, so let's look at our fractions. So looking back here at this paper right here, we notice that the fractions that are greater than a whole, the numerators are greater than the denominators. And in the fractions that are less than a whole, the numerators are less than the denominators. And then the fractions that are equal to a whole, the numerators are equal to the denominators. So that should help us sort these fractions. Okay, so 1 half. Is 1 half less than 1 or greater than 1? And maybe you could pause this video and see if you can do it on your own. And then come back and start the video and then see if you got the same answers that we got. Okay, so 1 half, the numerator is less than the denominator. 1 half is less than 1. 2 thirds. 2 thirds, 2 is less than 3. So 2 thirds is less than 1. And you can also tell too, if we, going back to our pizza conversation, here's a whole pizza, and here's half of the pizza, which is less than the whole. Thirds, two thirds is less than a whole. 6 fourths. 6 fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4 fourths, which is a whole. And we need another pizza, another whole half of a pizza to get 6 fourths, right? So that is greater than a whole. So that goes on this side. We can just cross them off as we use them. 3 halves. Well, here's 1 half. Here's 2 halves. Oh, whoops, sorry. 2 halves. And then to make 3 halves, we'd need another pizza. So that means 3 halves is greater than a whole. 7/8. Cut our pizza into 8 pieces. And we shade 7 of them. That is less than the whole. So 7/8 is less. 5/3. Well, here's 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3. So that's definitely greater than a whole. So 5/3 goes over here. 6/8. Well, here's our pizza that's our eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's definitely less than 1. And 7/6. 7/6. So here's our pizza. Cut into 6 slices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/6 are a whole, so we would need another 6th. So 7/6 is greater than 1. So there we go. Now, number 2, look for a pattern in the fractions you sorted. Describe a fraction that can help you decide whether a fraction is less than 1 or greater than 1. And so one of the ideas, one of the things that we talked about is how in the fractions that are less than 1, the denominator is greater than the numerator, or the numerator is less than the denominator. Because remember, the denominator represents how many are in the whole. So if the numerator is less than that, then that means that the fraction is less than a whole. And if the numerator is greater than that, then that means that the fraction is greater than a whole. So you can choose one of those patterns and you want to write it in your own words. So I'm not going to write it down there because you'll want to write that in your own words. But that would be one idea that you could say, that in the fractions that are less than a whole, the numerators are less than the denominators. And in a fraction that is greater than the whole, the numerators are greater than the denominator. And maybe you can look for something else that you might notice. Have a great night.